What are we doing? Oh, let's see. Spencer. Full of hell is in the chat. What's up? What's everybody doing?
What's up?
Spencer, what's up, dude? How are you?
Good. How about you?
Oh, man, just cracking into a ice cold Modelo after a rather kind of busy quarantine day, honestly.
Oh, what'd you do?
Uh, I I went to the store today and I
Mm-hmm.
stocked up on groceries, and that was like the adventure of a fucking lifetime at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that and did some boxing in my backyard, and probably looked like I was like LARPing out there or something. And then made some salmon, and now I'm sitting here with you.
Hell yeah.
So hey everybody, this is the Age of Quarantine, live from Saint Vitus. I'm here with Full of Hell's Spencer Hazard, guitar player, noisemaker, overall brilliant young man, and we're happy to have him here with us today. Obviously, we've been going through it just like every other venue, so we're just doing this to keep everything alive and, talk to some of our favorite musicians. So here we are with Spence. So I've been asking people this question a lot because I feel like, it's just a good place to start off, which is, kind of where you are right now and where would have you have been if the world was not experiencing a pandemic.
Currently, I'm like at my parents' house because I was I'm still in the middle of moving during all of this.
Oof.
So I'm like, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in a new apartment, like the next town over. So
Uh-huh.
I've been constantly having to go out to like buy shit. And it's just
Mm.
so weird having to go to like Walmart and Home Depot. It's just like,
Yo,
it looks like a horror movie.
Home Depot was crazy the other day. I had to go to Home Depot. I bought a home, and I had like an little ant problem, and I had to like buy stuff for it. And the local hardware store by me, I'm in right outside Asbury Park, New Jersey. It was closed, so I had to go to Home Depot, and it was just like everyone in mass, like everyone like very skittish and stuff for one another. It was just a trippy vibe, man, And I'm like trying to buy like bug killer or something.
Yeah. And I was like, so like, I'm supposed to be in Europe right now. I think I'm
With
supposed to
Primitive Man, right?
Yeah, it was Primitive. It was Full of Hell headlining Primitive Man, and then my noise rock band, iFlies, was opening the tour.
I really like that shit, man.
Thank you.
You guys just iFlies put out a record on Thrill Jockey, I believe,
Yes.
right? Not too long ago. For everybody who's watching right now, iFlies is at least I would describe it as just a really fucking cool noise rock band, really thick on the nice heavy distorted thick bass riffs. Really, if you guys like Full of Hell, you got to check that shit out. It's a different vibe, but I think you all get a lot out of it. So you were going to do double duty on that tour, huh? What
Yes.
do you play in iFlies? Do you play guitar or?
Yeah, I play guitar. It's like, I'm basically just like rhythm guitar kind of thing. Like, I'm so busy with Full of Hell. Like, I started the band, me and Pat, the drummer, started the band when I was living in Philly for a little while. But it's just like with Full of Hell, I'm so busy. So, like, I can't practice with them that much kind of thing. So, like, the European tour was going to be like one of our only tours for the year to promote the record. And now
Mm,
it's just like
yeah, like
shit out of
everyone
luck.
else. Yeah, like best laid plans. Hey, by the way, guys, yo, Dylan, what's good? Guys, if you guys want to ask a question, use the little question button on the bottom there. And a little bit later on, we'll try and get to some questions and stuff too that you guys might have for Dylan. I mean, for Spencer. So, yeah, so you don't get to do it that often because obviously Full of Hell is doing its thing, so much. How is it? How's like the writing process for iFlies kind of happen while you're kind of trying to do it amongst being all over the place all the time?
Whereas like Full of Hell, I'm like the basically the primary songwriter. Like I'm the one that comes with riffs and everything. Whereas like iFlies, everybody in the band writes. Like our first EP, our drummer wrote most of it because me and him were just jamming ideas because he knew I liked Flipper and Black Flag Melvins and shit like that. So he was like, hey, do you want to jam once you're like settled into Philly, like we should jam some noise rock shit. He's like, I have all these songs. So it's like him and Jake, the singer, playing Backslider, who I've known played Saint Vitus.
Oh, that's really cool. I mean, I haven't seen the band,
Yeah.
so I've only heard it and I've really liked it. I was like, oh shit, okay, this is what we're doing. You know, like
Yeah.
really like I was like, oh dude, this is fucking great. But I had no idea. Backslider, great band. That's cool.
And bass player is Kevin from Triac.
Oh, and he has a studio, yeah?
Yeah. So like I've known all the guys in the band for like ever, just from Full of Hell, like touring and playing shows with Triac and Backslider and obviously recording with Kevin and stuff. So we were all just like, let's just start a band. So
Yeah, that's great. That's super cool. And so it's just kind of like a, you know, as it kind of comes sort of thing, try and do it as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Yeah, that's great. You're also, besides Full of Hell, you're making instruments a lot nowadays. Can we talk a little bit about that, right?
Yeah, it's just mainly just like shaker boxes and noise devices. So it's like something for like the end of your signal chain. So if you want to do like a harsh wall of noise, you can just like plug it into all your pedals and then you have the device to like trigger the pedals to go off kind of thing.
Yeah. I've seen you kind of made like one of those like kind of Mersbowy junk guitar joints for a couple of people, right? And I was like, wow, this is great. If you guys, what's the Instagram? Is it Industrial Hazard?
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to check out some really like fucking sweet noise videos of some of the stuff that Spencer's been doing, check out Industrial Hazard, and you know he'll have a lot of his racket devices available for purchase. But also, you know, you can see really fun videos and stuff. I'm a geek that way. Obviously, I love to, you know, just kind of fuck around and like check out people's tutorials and vibes and stuff like that. So that's great. So I want to kind of take it back a little bit earlier. So, you know, I feel like oftentimes I have like this really interesting relationship with a lot of people. Like me and you have known each other almost for a decade, but we've known each other in this very particular way, you know, through music, through you guys coming to play at Saint Vitus when you were a really young band, you know. I believe that the first time you guys played Vitus, there was one or two members of the band that weren't 21 yet, and like people had to ask me like, yo, it's cool, like, you know, if they play and stuff like that, and like yeah, you know, like, and I was like, wow, and like, look at us here, this development over like almost 10 years of time, because we've been open 9 years in April. So I was like, holy shit, we've known each other that long. So Full of Hell, what were the origins? Because it says you guys are from Ocean City, right?
Yeah, it's basically.
Is that technically true?
Yeah, me and Dave live in Ocean City. We've gone through like a plethora of bass players now, but Sam, who plays bass in us now, I sold him one of his first guitars when he was like 14 years old or something.
Wow. Yeah, like, he looks like a youngin' to me, fam.
Yeah, I'm like, I forget how much, I think I'm like 7 years older than him or something.
Yeah.
But Dave has been touring with us. Like, we're basically Dave's first band. Like, Dave first toured with us when he was like 14, and we went to Europe for the first time when he was 16. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That young.
26, so.
Yeah, that's wild, man. So what was the kind of genesis of the band? Like, how did you guys sort of meet? How did it kind of like start coming together?
It was like me and some other guys like I had been playing music with like off and on for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just like, around our area, it's more like typical hardcore type stuff, or like scene music, like on like fucking shit you would hear on like Equal Vision or something, like, you know, like the swooped hair type stuff.
Yeah, the old swoopy doop.
Yeah, so like eventually after like a couple years, like me and my friends were just like, oh, let's just like start like a more like hardcore band. And it ended up, we were just like, oh, let's like take some influence from like Crowbar and I Hate God and make it heavier. And it just basically like members quit and snowballed from there. And like I met Dylan just from like traveling and stuff, actually playing with Full of Hell. We had a different singer at one point.
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
Yeah, Dylan's the second singer. The first singer was on like a demo. And me and Dylan got talking, and we like discussed like how we both like grew up listening to bands on Hydra Head Records and like stuff like Insect Warfare and Endless Blockade, and like the other guys in the band weren't really into that type of stuff. So like me and Dylan like bonded over that, and then once our singer quit, we talked to Dylan about joining, and then that way we were able to like coalesce and bring in these more like extreme influences rather than just like more typical hardcore stuff. And then from there it just built and built. Whereas like Dave did the first tour with us, but it was like I met him on MySpace and I was like, hey, don't you play drums? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, do you want to go on tour? And he's like, I'm 14 though. And I was like, that's fine. So that's
get in the fucking car, bro.
Yeah.
Get in the band. It's cool.
Like, Dave didn't even really listen to like anything like super extreme until like he started hanging out with us.
Wow, really? So it kind of, how did you kind of like know that Dave would be, I mean, obviously he's a pretty integral and focal part of the band. He's an amazing drummer, and stuff like that. But how did you guys just kind of be like, hey, we want you to kind of sort of play this way, and then you took the reins on it? Or if you didn't have much of a context, I'm just like curious about that.
We were basically like, all right, do you want to play in a band and go on tour with us? He was just like, yeah, sure. And we're like, do you like any like extreme stuff? He's like, oh, I like a couple of these hardcore bands. And we're like, all right, cool. And then I gave him a list of like, I was like, listen to all of these bands and try to like stylize your drums like this. And it was like 100 bands, but it was like a bunch of power violence stuff and like crust stuff. And then he just came, and it was just like, you know, trial and error, and just did as best as he could, and like basically learned blast beats on the spot and shit.
Yeah, that's just kind of wild, you know, because I think I always like to, you know, kind of hearing how organic these sort of things kind of just roll. And there are certain things, I think, the way that people play, that as much as you can learn things and influence, there's something sort of like kind of innate, I think, in each player that really gives everything like a lot of character, you know? Like, of course, Dave probably, you know, went through those bands and was like, oh, all right, cool. I like some of this one more than others, or like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But like, when you see that guy play drums, that's like him sort of singularly. And I felt that a lot when I first saw the band. I was like, what is this sort of like fucking, you know, kind of like grindy, but then they try and do this sort of some of this noise stuff in between their songs. Like, I felt like there was an interesting dynamic there that wasn't totally, you know, this is 10 years ago. It wasn't totally fleshed out, but I kind of saw, you know, kind of the, like, we're kind of reaching for more. We don't want to be necessarily like the grind band and like, then we're good, you know? Yeah. And that to me was inspiring. That was what I liked that about the band. I was like, and look, these guys are 20 by the time they're, you know, like I was excited to see more, you know?
Yeah. I feel like too, like, as we've progressed as a band, it's more like we've obviously taken more death metal influence and stuff, but I think for sure it's honestly like we've always had death metal influence, because I mean we're named after an Entomb song, but I feel it's like we didn't know our instruments as well until we like progressed as a band, and then we can start doing this more technical stuff. And that's why I think it's like naturally like have, like I said, more organic of like the death metal stuff, just because we've been playing with each other for so long, and now we can like push each other for like our instruments and stuff.
Do you feel that like over time, I feel like the noise elements have been growing sort of in the band, and obviously you know you guys did a record with Merzbow, which is the legend, you know, which is incredible.
I'll give you a story about. So the first
give me the story.
The first time that we played Saint Vitus was with Phobia and Skull Shitter. And at that show, Balaj, who plays drums for Merzbow, was at that show because he was doing a record with a couple jazz guys in New York. So the Merzbow connection was made at the first time we played Saint Vitus. See,
we're responsible for the Merzbow record, everybody. Full of Hell Merzbow. I actually get production credits. Christ.
Yeah. But yeah, he came up to us, and we were just like, he was like, oh, I play drums for Merzbow. We're just like, okay, like, sure, like, like some random guy came up to us like on the street as we were loading in and like talked to us, and then came out, it was true. So
And if you know Balish too, for everybody listening, he's just kind of like very like a dude, like
yeah,
Verso with the long hair and like kind of vibey. Like he's just like this dude. It's kind of like nondescript, and then he's into like he might be wearing like a Madball shirt, right? Like it's not like all in some like noise zone and stuff. But he's this incredible drummer and a fucking phenomenal guy. He played with Merzbow at Saint Vitus as
okay,
well, and I didn't directly book the show, but we did two shows in one night, and it was fucking crazy. It was so good, and I had no idea that Balish would be kind of playing with him. I wasn't sure of the details. I was just like, oh, all right, cool. He was incredible. It was so fucking cool to sort of see, and it was one of the best shows that we've had there. Stands for like one weird noise fight, but we don't have to get into that.
yeah.
So with the noise element, I felt like obviously, that started coming. It just kind of started blooming in the band, and then obviously the collaboration with Merzbow kind of came, and then it kind of continued more. How was it kind of at first? It felt like these things are like a salad, like it was like noise and then metal stuff, noise and then metal stuff, and now I feel like you guys have really, it's almost indistinguishable. There's like a full of hell thing that kind of happened over time.
I feel like yet again, like going back to the death metal thing, like Dylan and I wanted to add noise to the band like pretty early on, and like members that had come and gone like discouraged it. But once we found members that were like willing to experiment, we were able to put it in more, because we were like, even when we started the band or when Dylan joined, we were like taking influence from stuff like Throbbing Gristle and Endless Blockade and Man is the Bastard and stuff like that. And it's also too, like, I think it's just become more organic and flows better, just because, as I said, touring and like basically when you tour as much as we do, it becomes almost like a practice kind of thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, for sure.
We're playing with each other so much that it just becomes like smoother. And
yeah,
so, like, that's why I feel like, and also too, we're able, now that we're older, we can afford better equipment as well.
Hey, all right. We got a little bit of paper. We're getting better stuff. Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's always really the case. Economics plays a lot in making music, what you have access to, or sometimes what you don't have access to. The sunlight sound, like a lot of that kind of stuff happened because of lack of access, and then creating something else, or so on and so forth. So that's always to me like an interesting thing. Like, why'd you start playing this way? Oh, well, that's what I had. Whatever.
Exactly.
That's fucking cool. I'm gonna go and take a look. See, at the question box is pretty full. So
okay,
let's see what happened here. Oh, here's a good one from Jack Zima. It says, what is your main goal with the capabilities of the industrial hazard devices?
Right now, I basically am just doing what is available to me and what I can do, like, with my time. Like, I wish I could do more in-depth, like, guitar pedals type stuff, but it's just, like, I don't really have the time to, like, sit down and teach myself, like, schematics of, like, pedals and boards and stuff like that. So, like, as of right now, like, I'm just doing, like, electroacoustic type instruments, and, like, yeah, I would like to have my instruments more in depth, but as of right now, like, it's just, I gotta, I might, now that we have time off from tour, maybe I can teach myself, but
yeah, we're all sitting here trying to learn or dissect, like, oh, that thing that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like, now's the time, everyone, for sure. Somebody just asked, if you want to ask a question, use a little question box at the bottom here, and you can throw in a question in the question box, and I'll see like that. Here's kind of a pretty straightforward one. Devin94_, do you like The Cure?
I used to more in high school, but like now I just, like, I don't know. I don't really listen to it. So
yeah.
Yes, I like them. So, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I love them, man. I can't get enough. I'm just a weepy old guy, I guess, but I love Robert Smith. I think he's a great songwriter. Let me go in here. Here's another one. Will you do a collab album with Thou?
No, they do too many collabs as it is.
Oh, boom! Definitive statement.
Yeah.
Oof, done. Let me ask you a question. I mean, most of my bands have been pretty kind of insular and stuff like that. How does, I mean, I feel like Full of Hell has collaborated quite a fucking bit. What's the, like, how did it become like such a strong part of the identity of the band?
I honestly don't know. Like, I guess we just had fun. Like, the Mers, like, I mean, that was like a trial by fire. Because, like, imagine your first collaboration record being with this, like, you know, one of the most famous noise musicians in the world. And, like, going back now, there's definitely a lot of stuff I would change about it. But,
Mm-hmm.
like, that first time, it became such a, like, an interesting experience and pushed us as like musicians and trying to be creative. We were like more open to doing the collaborations. And then we met the Body, obviously, who loves doing collaborations and stuff. So like once we started to become more friends with those guys, it just kind of like we were like, you guys just want to do a collaboration together? And we're just like, yeah, sure, why not?
How, like, how did that sort of, how does the process of something like that kind of go about? It's, I guess it's different each and every project, right?
Yeah, whereas the Merzbow stuff, like we had our own Full of Hell songs written, and then Merzbow gave us like an hour and a half of just raw noise, one track straight, and was like, do whatever you want with it. So that's why the Merzbow collab is like a double LP, because the one LP is basically our songs with parts of that we put in of his, and then the second one is mainly Merzbow focused, where me and Dylan did like a bunch of like remixing and adding instruments to it. And then the Body stuff is no ideas at all. We just go into the studio and just figure it out.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So yeah, well, because obviously Merzbow is in Japan, so that's kind of
Yeah, and like
a way
he can
different
speak
vibe.
English somewhat, but he's not like the best at English. So, and
Yeah,
he played live with him twice, and both times he was just we were like, "What do you want to do?" And he was like, "Just play." They gave us no instructions at all. So we're like, all
just
right,
play, kid. Just play. Sorry,
yeah,
that's amazing though. It's I feel like that there's something really like freeing about that, but it's pretty incredible that Merzbow gave you that much material to go. Here's an hour and a half of stuff.
yeah,
Take it, and you can just like go with it. That's like a whole fucking assload of trust. I feel like,
yeah,
so that's
yeah.
pretty
So,
incredible.
so like I said, it was a trial by fire because I mean, we had never done anything like that, and just to have this legendary guy just drop all this on you, give us free reign, and then like have to meet his approval, and he approved of it. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's good. There's a sort of a nervous vibe there, I'm sure. But then at the same time, it's kind of interesting to maybe, in the Body context, there's something different where you're like, well, now we're here, we're in the studio, and like
yeah,
we don't have anything. So
yeah.
then we're staring across from each other, like, let's see how this kind of happens. Sometimes
Well,
the chemistry
the
can be
body
good
the
or
body
bad, or
collabs mainly are just like, all right, let's go to the studio. We get there, set up, and then they're like, all right, like where do you want to order food from? That's mainly the studio process with the
what's
body.
the what's like the good order for like the Body collab? Is it like, or is it like, is there a good burrito spot? Is it pizza? What's like the studio food situation?
Just trash, of course.
Yeah,
Pizza, Olive Garden, fucking, whatever the trashiest food we can get.
the trash in, trash out. Perfect. Uh, I'm gonna the comment boxes. Ooh, 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 ooh. Let's see. All right. Why does playing more extreme music appeal to you emotionally and spiritually? That one is from Peter Schroeder.
Um, hmm. I
It's a
guess
deep
just
one.
like, I mean, I've always been into more extreme music, and it's just like, I mean, I've tried to do more like softer type bands, more like indie rock bands. And then anytime I do something like that, it just never coalesces into anything. And it's like I end up taking those riffs and can like morph them into like Full of Hell songs. So I don't know. It's just like I naturally am drawn to playing like extreme music, I guess.
Damn. No, I mean, I think that sometimes, again, it's like a little bit of a DNA thing. It's how you
Yeah.
play. And like, I find it hard to make pretty stuff, you know, like I was in, you know, metal post-hardcore band for a long time called Primitive Weapons. And then I started making a lot of techno stuff. And I did a remix for Full of Hell, right? But like, my shit is that loud. It's like that mean. It's 128 BPMs. It's heavy. It's fast. It's like, even if I'm doing something completely like different, there's something that just still comes with the territory of me making it for whatever reason, even though it's
Yeah.
completely different. I don't know. Let's go back to the comment box. Oh, this is fun. Your favorite go-to karaoke song from Corona Karaoke?
I've never done karaoke, but it would have to duet with somebody. You froze. You still there?
I'm here. No, keep going.
Okay, you froze. Definitely Sheryl Crow and Kid Rock Picture.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty wild. Sheryl Crow and Kid Rock Picture. That's the go-to karaoke song if you were to do one.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man. I feel like that would be like fun at like 1 a.m. on tour, some fucking dumb spot. My go-to is George Michael, Careless Whisper.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's the joint, man. I love George, man. He's one of my favorite pop artists of all time.
I know Dave and Sam love doing karaoke, but I don't go with them because I know if I go with them, they're going to pressure me to try to do it.
Party Boy Dave is ready for karaoke. We know
exactly.
That. We know this. I think I seen him do it once at Saint Vitus, probably, for sure.
Yeah.
It seems like, if I've been reading correctly on your Instagram, sorry, I was just pouring myself a little tequila there. You know, we're hanging out. I'm like at the bar with Spencer. Have you guys been writing a lot now that you guys have all been home? I thought I saw a couple of posts of Full of Hell writing some new material, or?
Yeah. I was like starting to like just put some riffs together before we even were supposed to go on this European tour. But obviously now that like that's not happening, and I don't know when we're going to be able to tour in the immediate future. So like I've just been putting all these riffs together for I Flies and Full of Hell. But like the issue now is too, it's like Dylan and Sam both live in Pennsylvania, and out of state flights aren't even allowed to go through Delaware, and you have to go to Delaware to get to Ocean City. So it's like I don't even know when we can have band practice.
I see. Yeah, it's interesting how those challenges kind of present themselves, because I thought that I know that Dylan kind of lives in the middle of nowhere, and it's a little more scattered than you guys all being so close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always find it kind of wild how, you know, there's certain bands that they write so much, but they all live in like vastly different places. Like, you know, the hardcore band Candy, like those guys are like singers in LA. This one's in New York. This one's in the Jersey Shore. This one's from Virginia. And I'm like, and that's how the band's been since day one. I'm like, how do you, I've never really had to try and do that before. Is it something that you guys are going to try and figure out a little bit remotely? Like, how we can try and put it together, or maybe just wait until the time's right?
I guess just wait until the time's right. I mean, Dave's is still living outside of Ocean City, so I can like, me and Dave can practice whenever, but even at this point, it's like, do we really want to be in close like confines with each other? Like, you know, it's just, it's weird. It's a weird feeling.
It's totally insane. I mean, I'm living in New Jersey at the moment, and, you know, I only moved here in February.
Yeah.
So this is the longest that I've like not been in New York City since I toured in Europe, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So I'm having this like, the world seems so fucking tiny right now. Where before it's like, yeah, let's jump on a plane and play Roadburn.
Yeah.
For sure. Speaking of Roadburn, somebody had asked in the questions over here about all of that, and obviously you guys were curating and doing some collaborations there and stuff like that. Are you guys trying to kind of salvage that and do that maybe at a later date, or what's happening with those performances?
We're trying to. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen, but it's just like, I don't know. Like, we've worked so hard. Like, we've been practicing for the Roadburn sets for like 6 to 8 months at this point. So it's just like the Friday before we were supposed to leave, Kristen from Lingua Ignota was supposed to come down to Ocean City with us to practice for our collaboration set. And like, I've written a whole like new piece of music for that collaboration. And we had been learning songs that we had not played in a decade from our like first LP.
Oh, wow.
And like, and then we had to learn both of our last two records, Trumpeting and Weeping Choir, because we were going to play all of those all the way through. I was going to end up playing 5 sets at Roadburn, 4 with Full of Hell and 1 with Eye Flies. So,
oh, wow.
yeah.
Damn. Yeah. It's pretty wild. I have Chris Enriquez, who's the drummer in Spotlights, who also is the co-host on Age of Quarantine, one of my really good friends. He was practicing for probably the past 3 to 4 months, drumming for Julie Christmas, who's going to be out there as well. And
Yeah.
The band was crazy. It was like him, Andrew Schneider from Pigs, and fucking produced all those great Unsane records, and one of the dudes from Cult of Luna, and like they brought this together, this amazing band for her. And it's so sad that those things won't see the light of day at the moment.
Yeah.
But hopefully you guys can get that stuff together, and it could all see what's up. And for everybody out there, this is what it takes to put on a festival as legendary and great as Roadburn.
Yeah.
Like, these things don't happen overnight. Collaborating musicians, all this stuff. So yeah, I hope that in one way or another, that work will see its way up. Let me go to the comment box here, because we got a bunch more. Here's a good one. All right. So, most memorable experience with an artist featured on a record from City Vulture.
I would say having Brian Chippendale play a drum solo on the second Body collab.
Brian Chippendale, Lightning Bolt, for heads who are not familiar, legendary band. They're Providence, right?
Yes. So we were recording at Machines with Magnets, and the Body has known the Lightning Bolt guys forever, since the Body lived in Providence for like 15 years or something.
Yeah, that's when I first started, booking them and having them down. They were all coming from there.
Yeah. So like, I think Lee just hit him up and was like, "Hey man, are you in town? You want to come by and play a drum solo? Like, you and Dave like have a trading off drum solo." So yeah, and he just like, he set up his kit in like the hallway between the boardroom and the live room, and just played on like, I think like a 3-piece kit, like just bass drum, snare, and like
Mad Jazz style.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fucking sick. That's super cool. So they set up like a recording situation in the hallway for him, and then Dave was in the live room, and then did they kind of go back and forth through like monitor kind of vibe?
I think Dave had done like this whole like, had done a ton of takes of all these different drum solos, and we basically just parts of it, and then had Brian be like, "All right, play whatever you can," kind of thing. We didn't even let him hear what Dave played, and then we just like morphed them together, kind of thing.
That's kind of great.
That's the cool part about the Body collabs, is just like, we use the studio basically as an instrument. We're like, fuck it, let's just do whatever we want.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of always have taken that approach as well. I'm like, I always think that you're in the studio, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You have technology, other things that you're, Brian Chippendale can walk in and you can do something pretty insane, and he's not going to be there all the time, but why not, right? Just enhances the moment, gives you that. And then when you have to, I feel like shows should be different anyway, right? Maybe. Yeah. I think it's kind of cool to be like, all right, well, that song's so fucking wild, or like, how are they going to fill that in? How is that going to kind of come off or not, you know? And I think that that's sometimes a little bit lost. Like the live performance should be, I think, rather different and kind of cool that way. You know?
Yeah, because we did two tours with the Body collaboration. One in the U.S., which could have Chip and Lee, but then we had the challenge of doing it in Europe with their fill-in drummer Zach from Brave Young,
Yes, yeah.
who like doesn't know the songs. So they when we did that, they came down for like 2 days before we went to Europe and just figured out a whole set of both of these records. The second one that we had never played any of the songs live before. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's pretty amazing. And when did so he just kind of just on the fly, like was kind of feeling all this stuff out, huh?
We basically he flew over, we like loaded up what samples he needed kind of thing, and we're just like, all right, here's how we're going to map it out, because the records are so improvised, it's hard to play exactly what the records, so we have to like actually map out what we're going to do for the live set. So it's completely different than what's on the record.
That's cool. I got another, and I like that, right? Like I
Yeah.
want live music to feel live, to feel a different sense. I got another question for you, and this is a guitar playing question. If you had to pick only one string on a guitar to use for the rest of your life, which one would it be? And it's from Mitch Wales.
Definitely not a bass string, because I think Mitch is just mad that I said we wouldn't do a collab with Dal, so he's just trying to.
Oh, that's it, man. This is
So.
this is that kind of thing. But speaking of guitar players and stuff like that, and you know, just musicians in general, when you were first picking up a guitar, what were the main the things that kind of brought you to that instrument and be like, hey, this player, that's getting me into like I want to be a guitar player.
I think I started playing guitar when I was like 12 or 13, but like I didn't really take it serious or like playing it that much. So I just like the typical like 12, 13-year-old type bands like Ramones and Misfits and stuff like that. Like that's what wanted, like, you know, jamming with my neighborhood friends, like trying to cover like Black Flag songs and stuff.
It's like you're learning how to kickflip and you're learning how to like play Last Caress.
Exactly. And then I didn't really start like trying to play live or with like other people in shows until I was like maybe like 17 and stuff. And then at that point I was like more into stuff like Botch and Converge and things like that. So
and you wanted to be a part of that. You're like, I want to kind of get into this sort of scene, and now this is going to be my way, and I want to start a band, and like I'm going to kind of vibe with that. It's just interesting to me because for some people, you know, they start like, hey, you know, my dad played, you know, or like I took piano lessons when I was a kid, and then like I discovered like punk and other shit like that, and like I'm like, oh, all right, cool, you know. Always like a really interesting way of like just that first moment, those first like, oh, I want to do this, you know. And it's interesting to make that feeling that makes you think that you can, you know. For me it was like punk made me feel like I could play music even though I had no right to think that in a way, but it was like, it was supposed to be this democratic thing, right? Like I should be able to do it.
But where was I forget where I was gonna go with this next. But yeah, no, like I'm not sure if people realize what Ocean City is like. It's like it's kind of isolated and it's like a weird town. Like there's like nobody here in the wintertime, and then the summertime it's absolutely packed. So there's like figuring out music and learning about different bands and stuff. Like we all had to just figure that out on our own. There was like 2 record stores that like the clerks were cool at and would like point us into like more extreme stuff, or like oh, if you like this you should like this kind of thing. But like yeah, there's not really shows. I mean, the closest places to go are like Baltimore and Philly, and I mean like when we're like 15 and 16, like we can't really get there, you know?
Yeah, for me I was always in the shadow of New York City. I grew up on Long Island, so like New York City would always get everything, but Long Island, some stuff would come, some weren't. But I felt that that's what made like the local music scene kind of strong, because it's not something that people do like all the time, touring bands, even though they should, because Long Island's kind of its own little thing if you can do something cool there, it's definitely worth it. And
Yeah.
especially now, there's a couple of cool venues that are actually like worth your while, to go and play down there. Like Amityville Music Hall. Shout out to Dan Valentino and those guys. But yeah, I feel like it's really interesting just where you are and what you have access to and how that shapes your whole life. Like for me, I have a friend of mine. His name is Corey, and we're still really good friends. He owns a bar called Beer Street in Brooklyn. Shout out to Corey. But he used to work at this CD store called Utopia, and he'd always throw in like little extras on the sly, And that's how I learned about so much music, because he'd be like, "Yo, check this out," and there'd be like an extra like Integrity record in the bag or something else like that, and like it's just those little things, especially before the internet really took over on distribution of music.
Yeah, like that's obviously lost on people, like being able to go to the record store and like the older guy just being like, "Oh, check this out," or he would like show me his distribution book and be like, "All right, go through and pick out what you want," kind of thing.
Yeah. Here's a good question. So, Corona karaoke again. Man, you're blowing up the spot. What music do you listen to that isn't metal?
Lately I've just been more into like I guess like early 90s, like late 80s, like SST type stuff, like, Dinosaur Jr. and Sonic Youth and Sebado. Like just
I
more
love
like,
Sabado, man.
yeah.
Lou Barlow is the Pharmacy. What a fucking record. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and like Sebado I never really checked out until like 6 months ago.
Oh,
It,
dude, so fucking good, man. It's just like, there it is, Kurt Cobain, rest in peace. Huge Sebado fan, and you can
yeah,
hear it so much, especially in Pharmacy.
yeah, like someone asked like if I didn't play metal, like that's like the type of band I would want to be in. Still like noisy with like heavy guitars, but like a ton of melody.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Lou's such an amazing vocalist and stuff. I saw them maybe 7 years ago at Club Europa, and they were just fucking spot. And even like the older, kind of more pushed, grungy, louder, screamier stuff, Lou is fucking nailing it, killing
Yeah.
it. It was super great. Yeah, I like a lot of that SSD stuff quite a bit, and I feel like in a lot of ways it kind of a lot of those bands were being informed by, obviously Nirvana, all that stuff, the Melvins and other things like that, which, you already talked about for iFlies being, a source of inspiration. It's just like one little leap over this way.
Yeah.
Super good. All right, sweet. Let's see. Comment box. Here's one. Where did the inspiration for the name iFlies come from? From Maniacal.
Melvins. I mean, we're not very creative when we name our bands. We just pick out songs because I mean, Full of Hell's Entombed, I Flies is obviously a Melvin song, and then Dave has his other grind band that he's been playing with forever, Jarhead Fertilizer, which is a dystopia song. So
there it is, man. You guys, on the names, we will bite. It's fine.
yeah,
On the music itself, listen up, kids. There's a lot there.
yeah, exactly. It's easier to just steal a name, and then focus on trying to write songs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Like let's keep that spectrum there. Let's see. Oh, this is a question. So you guys had a couple of big shows with Mr. Bungle, and
Yeah.
this question is, how did you get to share the stage with Mr. Bungle?
Yet again, another Balaj connection. We played with Pig Destroyer a couple years ago at Williamsburg Music Hall. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, exactly.
Balaj was at that show too, and he introduced us to Trevor Dunn. So once these Mr. Bungle shows got announced, Trevor emailed us personally and was like, "Hey, do you guys want to play with us?" So
Yeah, so that's what a phone call to get, huh?
yeah, and I mean that was the last show that we got to play before all this happened.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've been thinking about that too. Like the last show I played, and the last show that I went to was at Saint Vitus, and it was the band. I'm gonna try it. Saint Vitus Sugabog.
Yeah, yeah, whatever they're called.
Yeah, they're fucking sick. They were so good. It was a great fucking show. And it was them and Vomit Forth and a couple other death metal bands, Oxalate, and it was great. And that was the last time I saw a fucking show, man. Pretty wild. For me, that's like an eon ago, you know?
Yeah.
It's like ridiculous. Sip of tequila and more comment box. They're flying in. This is something. Oh, okay, here we go. Best OC food spot and why is it Grab and Go Taco?
I've never even heard of Grab and Go Taco.
Wow, there you go.
So
not even heard. But what is the best one?
That's honestly a hard question because the food in Ocean City is not very good. Because it's like there's no chains, but it's just a tourist trap kind of thing. So it's just like you can tell it's just like shipped in like processed shit that they just deep fry and then charge you $1 million for.
Yeah. Do you like cooking at home more so?
I mean, I'm never home half the time. I just end up eating shitty at like gas stations and fucking Taco Bell and stuff.
It's hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah.
I just like survive on beef jerky pretty much.
Yeah.
Beef jerky, tequila, a little bit of beer, and that's pretty much my entire diet. It's like it's the new fad.
Yeah.
Here's one from Jack Zima. What inspires you to create stuff other than music?
I guess with like the noise devices and stuff, like I just wanted to do something else when I was home because it used to be we like toured a lot, but like we obviously didn't make any money because it was all just like fucking DIY tours and shit. So I would end up having to go back and do construction work with my dad, which I'm currently doing now because construction's considered an essential business. So luckily I can do that while all this is going on. But basically it was just like, I want to make these noise devices because it's just something interesting to do and I can make a little bit of money on the side.
Sure.
It initially came because Dylan had a similar device and it broke. So I was like, I'm going to try to make him something that I can find from like parts at like a hardware store. And then that way he doesn't have to spend a ton of money to get this box re-imported from Japan.
Dylan always breaking shit, man. You know, he's very excitable, that young man.
Yeah.
No, I feel like that. I mean, I always find it interesting when people in bands have, their kind of their own little side hustle that kind of is naturally birthed out of the band, like I was talking to Ethan from Primitive Man and he's obviously does a lot of, like their artwork and stuff like that too. And that's kind of like expanding for him, or like my friend Anthony from Cult Leader. He just on tour, he just draws like all the time.
Yeah.
And he'll sell like prints of like his artwork, hey, I drew this in the van on an 8-hour drive, and then he'll finish it up and he'll be like, here, buy this for $75. And it's beautiful. It's great. And it looks like their merch too, So he's sitting there and because he designs everything. It's a really interesting way of how that kind of goes. Cause I can imagine, a lot of people listen to a song like Angels Gather Here, or, some of these more noise inspired songs, and they kind of are trying to figure out, hey, Spencer Mutt builds this stuff. Maybe I want to kind of get involved,
Yeah. And it's just like, luckily with us too, like speaking of like side hustles and stuff, like Dylan is able to print t-shirts. Dave works on the boardwalk, but like they let him come back whenever the fuck he wants because I guess he sells sunglasses on the boardwalk. And
That's sick. I need some more shades, dude. Why isn't Dave hooking me up?
He sells high-end shades like Gucci and stuff, so.
Dude, check these out that I just got. Come back. Dude, Dave Bland could have sold me these.
He would have sold you those, and then he would have explained all the different like parts of the lenses and why they're good, and like why he would prefer another one. Like he's become a sunglass expert.
Dude, I love that, man. I'm gonna hit him up for some fucking Gucci Uchis.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, I'm down, man. I'm gonna have to go. It's pretty amazing how obviously with just playing music and stuff like that. Obviously, you do it as much as you can. You're on the road a lot. You guys hustle a lot. Full of Hell has a fucking amazing work ethic to bring you guys to where you've been. But there's always that kind of need to do some stuff when you get home and figuring that out. Did that take a while to kind of, you pop in with your dad or whatever?
I mean, I've been working on and off with my dad since I was like 17 because you could like do the work study program in high school. So I was like, fuck, of course I want to get out of school half a day. So I've been doing like that. Just like, but mainly now because I'm like gone so much, I just do like if he needs like deliveries for like a job and type of stuff, you'll just be like, all right, go to the lumber yard, get all this shit. Like you're like your head's not in the game, so I don't want you fucking on the roof or something like that.
Yeah, get him off the roof, man. Nah, no doubt. So, but do you think that some of that background too, of like, construction, learning how to build stuff and things like that, has kind of informed some of the things that you've been doing lately with building shit?
No, but I would say, like, I guess yes and no, because I mean, like, my dad isn't like into like any, like, he likes some music, but it's not like he's informed me of like any like type of bands or anything.
Yeah.
But I do get a lot of like work ethic stuff from being around him, like just like the way to like try to run a business just from seeing him do it for so many years.
Yeah, by example, I mean, both of my parents, I'm first generation Colombian, small entrepreneurs. My dad is a mechanical engineer, had his own firm for a long time, and my mom owned nail salons for a while. Fingers, faces, and toes on the fucking South Shore of Long Island, and that shit popped off in the 80s. So, yeah, I was also that too, and I think that you gain a lot from just even that example of just being like, look, it's on me, right? Like Full of Hell is its own thing, and it's on me to run the whole other aspect. It's great to be creative and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I admire about the band is how much there's obviously the DIY kind of ethic to the band with the artwork and, Dylan printing shirts and everybody doing kind of their job to make the band really function at this whole other level, more of a Fugazi kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And I got that off of you guys really early on. And I thought that was just, I was like, man, these young folk got it together, man. Like, they're operating at a really cool capacity. And I thought it was impressive even from the get-go.
I feel like we take like that too, like worth ethic wise, from like looking at a band like Neurosis, who's had, sure, they might like, not be as DIY now, because it does get to a point where it's hard to be DIY. Like,
yeah,
like dealing with like taxes and stuff, like that's fucking like complicated when, you actually have to like run a business where it's like basically 4 owners of a business. Like it gets confusing. But like we look at Neurosis and they've like kept the same people, like they have like the same sound guy they've had for like 20 some years. Like
that guy's a fucking genius, by the way.
Yeah, we met him a couple of times. But yeah, and then they like always have a hand in like if they're not doing the artwork themselves, they're making sure that they get to pick the artist. Like we always have just like aspired to be like that. Like I feel like if we just put it in other people's hands too, like Dylan and I would go crazy, because we would just be like, like, why isn't this getting done? Like, why is this taking so long? Like, what I mean? Like,
yeah, no,
that
makes a lot of sense.
So
yeah, and I think that there's a learning in that as well, right? It's like, even if I feel like a lot of bands don't realize that they're the boss.
Yeah,
most of the time, like it's like, if you're my booking agent, you're my booking agent. I'm the artist. I picked you. You weren't like blessed by some fucking person from above, or like you're my publicist. Like I'm making this art and I'm moving it out. And if you want something like that, that's kind of you're in the driver's seat of those relationships. And sometimes I think certain artists, they can get a little bit overwhelmed by like, oh, this is what you should do, or like the next step. But if you kind of keep that internal compass kind of strong, it'll benefit you in the long run for sure.
And it's even too, like, we tried to like not have a booking agent as long as we possibly could. Me and Dylan booked all the tours that we could, like just for like, we probably booked all of our tours from 2009 to 2014. Like even our first European tour was DIY.
Yeah.
Like we just figured it out kind of thing. Like we had some help from like friends who had been there, but there wasn't any booking agents involved. So once we finally got to the point where we're like, we can't do this anymore. Like, we need a booking agent. We made sure that we chose somebody that we're like, look, you're going to be working with our friends that we've met through DIY, and you better not ever pull some like booking agent shit with them. Like, you better not squeeze them. You better not burn any bridges, because these people aren't just booking our shows, they've become our friends.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just that organic. I've traveled around, and I've you've felt those relationships and stuff like that. So you just want to kind of keep moving through those in like in a good way, in a positive light, without doing the 15 to 20 email per show dance that you
Yeah.
kind of have to do. And but that's also part of the efficacy of it too, because you guys are pretty prolific as far as putting out new material and stuff like that. And like you have to weigh those things at a certain point. It's like, do I want to make it maybe an extra collaborative EP with a body, or do I want to book this tour and just put out one record, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
those things become real conversations. We got about like another 5 minutes or so. So
Okay.
I'm going to go, the comment box is kind of full up again. So I'm going to go and just kind of do these a little more quick fire before we'll wrap up. So let's see what we got here. Oh, this is a real on topic question. What kind of resources do you need for tour, especially as a young band? Zach DG. What would be like a good little rule of thumb for our young friend Zach? Hey, Saint Vitus Bar. What's up, boys?
It's just hard because like when we started out kind of thing, it was like a completely different like playing field. Like, we started out in like booking tours on like the MySpace and shit like that. And like, I don't honestly know how bands can even book tours at this point, like if they don't already know people. Like, it's become like perplexing to me. Like, you'll read like about like Black Flag and shit, like booking tours without a GPS or something. You're like, how did they do that? And now it's like it's on the opposite end of the spectrum, being like, MySpace isn't there just to like randomly message promoters. Like, how do DIY bands book tours at this point? So it's just like, I guess just like a good thing. It's just like, just don't be a fucking dickhead when you finally do get able to tour. Like, so that way you build like a good reputation, and then your name can spread organically, and then people will want to start booking you more. Like, I mean, that's the only advice I could give, really.
Yeah, for sure. Here's another one. How do you deal with low-key but seriously mid-show mishaps? Have you ever had a couple of funny things kind of happen where you're just like, okay, this is all falling apart. How do I rescue it?
I mean, there's obviously like strings breaking, and then one time Dave's entire drum set fell off the riser in Arizona. And you just play through it. You just fucking ignore it and just pretend it didn't happen. And like, of course we're kind of like upset or mad when we first get off stage, but then by the next day you got to just like let it blow over, or it's just going to fuck up every other show.
I think that sometimes those things are kind of memorable depending on how the band handles them too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
If it's like a funny mishap, like, it's going to be a good story. Like, of course, if something fucking terrible happens, it's going to, mess with you, but you just can't let it.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I remember one time I saw the Dillinger Escape Plan, and they were playing 43% Burnt, and City of Caterpillar opened, and it was just the shen ten 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 shanka, like the easiest riff probably that they played in their entire. And they all played it, but they all played it like kind of wrong.
Yeah,
it was just like shun ten 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 ten, like they all kind of stuttered in this weird way, and then they stopped, and they looked at each other, and then it was right when Greg first started singing for the band, and then Greg looked at the crowd, and he just went, "That was amazing." And then they just started it all over again, and then that was like the last song of the show, and they fucking destroyed it. And I will never forget that because it was so fucking funny.
Yeah,
like it's the easiest thing that they probably ever played, but it was pretty good. So we got like another minute or two left. If there's anything you want to say to anybody, or just a little shout out, anything else.
Shout out to all the people I know that's been talking shit in the crowd. I can see you guys.
I love that, man.
Posting. But yeah, keep an eye out. Hopefully we're going to tour at the end of the summer if everything clears up. Hopefully, but we'll see how it goes in the next couple weeks, I guess. but keep an eye out for that.
For sure, for sure. And thank you guys for watching the series. It means a lot to us.